Alright guys, what is going on? So right now we are going to take a look at the iPhone 7 and compare it to the iPhone XS. And as you guys know, I try to keep it as realistic as possible. And a lot of you guys might get mad about my opinion, but I just want to let you guys know it's my opinion. Alright, and I'm actually out here, I buy these phones. I'm not like these huge like millionaire tech YouTubers that go out and like get phones from Apple. So pretty much in a lot of ways, I do think that the iPhone XS is a better phone than the iPhone 7. I just want to get that out there. If you have an unlimited amount of money you can spend, let's say your mom's getting your phone or your girlfriend or boyfriend or whatever is getting you your phone, then go get the iPhone XS. What are you doing? Like, why are you even watching this? The iPhone XS is a much better phone, but the question lies, and this is why these are important, these comparisons and all these things. The iPhone 7, you can probably get used at like $250. I think they're selling at the Apple Store for $399 or $499. I don't really remember. But you can pick up an iPhone 7 for not even like I got this one for less than $200. Whereas on the iPhone XS, it's still like over $1,000, obviously, because it just came out. But even like the iPhone X is still very expensive. I think it's over $600. So the question is, should you go spend $800, $700 more to get an iPhone XS? And that's what this video is basically for. Now, looking around the body, obviously the iPhone 7 looks way worse than the iPhone XS. You have a lot of bezel going on. You have the home button here, which mine doesn't work, which is so dumb. You have the camera up front, you have all these things. And in terms of both of them, the iPhone XS looks so much more sleek. You have like no bezel at all. You have a notch up top, which some people like, some people don't like. I don't really mind it too much. But the main difference now is the screen themselves, actually. So zooming in, it's a little hard to see, but you can just tell that the iPhone 7 screen isn't as good. We have a 4.7-inch IPS panel on the iPhone 7, and we have a 5.8-inch Super AMOLED screen on the iPhone XS Max. And as you can see even from this, the colors on the iPhone XS Max look way sharper. It's a very good screen, and there's really not too much to complain about except really burn-in. But other than that, I mean, all phones are pretty much going to experience it. And the resolutions are completely different as well. You have 750 by 1334 on the iPhone 7, and you have 1125 by 2436 on the iPhone XS Max. And in terms of both of them, the iPhone XS screen is much better. AMOLED is always going to be better than IPS. It has its shortcomings for sure, but in terms of both, I love the iPhone XS screen. And that's probably one of the best features of it. So that's definitely cool. Now, kind of going to the back and looking around, we both don't have headphone jacks. The speaker is actually a little bit better on the iPhone XS as well. And looking at the back, we kind of do have a new camera setup, but it's not new because it came on the 7 Plus. But in my opinion, the iPhone XS camera is a lot better. You're able to do a lot of things on this phone that you can't do on the iPhone 7, such as portrait mode, portrait lighting, smart HDR, and you can change the bokeh and the blur effect, and a lot of other things. And the upgrade from here is very good. But at the same time, I think the iPhone 7 camera isn't horrible either. You can do a lot with it, but I will kind of go in more in depth in about the cameras in a second. Now, another thing I want to kind of bring up real quick is the OS versions. Now, this one just got iOS 12. This one is going to, it actually started off getting iOS 10, but it's going to get iOS 11, 12, I obviously got those. 13, 14, I believe it's going to get iOS 14 and stop, or iOS 15, but it's not going to go like on forever. The iPhone XS is going to last longer, so that's obviously one reason to go for it right there. And now going into the performance factor, and the reason I made the video like this and not a standard one where I talk over it is so I can do a speed test, and it just kind of fits better and it's like way easier to edit. Now, the iPhone 7 has the Apple A10 Fusion chip, has a quad-core processor at 2.34 gigahertz and 2 gigabytes of RAM, whereas on the iPhone XS, you have the Apple A12 Bionic chip, a hexa-core processor, and 4 gigabytes of RAM. So that's a huge, increase in that in and of itself. There's a huge difference there. And in terms of raw specs, the iPhone XS has twice the amount of RAM than the iPhone 7, and that is a worthwhile upgrade in my opinion. You can do a lot with that extra 2 gigabytes of RAM, and the iPhone XS Max also has it, but the iPhone 7 Plus also has 3 gigabytes of RAM, which is a lot. And I think 2 gigabytes of RAM is sufficient. Like, it's enough to do anything you want to. 1 gigabyte is too low, like on the 5S and 6, but 2 gigabytes of RAM is good, especially on an iOS device. Now let's go ahead and do a speed test. It's going to be as, unbiased as possible. I'm going to go ahead and clear out all the apps. All the apps are already clean on both these phones. I would do a startup and boot up test, but that's just going to take forever. And I will just tell you right now, the iPhone XS is going to load faster. But let's go ahead and load up some simple apps, simple Alpaca apps. All right, let's do camera, 3, 2, 1. As you can see, the iPhone, I think it goes into one of like the square box in the middle goes. The iPhone XS was faster in that sense. Let's go ahead and open up calendar, 3, 2, 1. It'll like almost open it instantaneously on the iPhone XS. Let's go ahead and do maps, 3, 2, 1. Ooh, that looked, maybe the iPhone XS was faster there. That looked pretty even though. Let's do clock, 3, 2, 1. Pretty instantaneous on both. Those are pretty low intensive apps. Let's do weather, 3, 2, 1. I hate these dialog boxes. Yeah, it looked pretty even. Maybe the XS was faster there. Let's do news, 3, 2, 1. Yeah, it's looking to be faster on the 10. Yeah, it was faster on the 10s. Not by a lot though. Let's do stocks, 3, 2, 1. It's faster on the iPhone XS, but I'm surprised it's not like way faster like what I was thinking. I was thinking it was gonna go like way faster, but it's not really. Let's do App Store, 3, 2, 1. It's definitely faster on the iPhone XS, but again, like it's not that much like I can't believe it. Like I'm astonished right now. Let's do phone, 3, 2, 1. Now these should open up at the same time. Yeah, the XS open up a little bit faster though. But let's do messages, 3, 2, 1. Yeah, pretty much the same on both. Now let's go ahead and do Temple Run because that's the only app I have on here that's not intensive. 3, 2, 1. It's looking like it's faster. Yeah, I mean, you can see it's like way faster on the iPhone XS. Both updated the newest version or whatever. Both the same page. You can see the iPhone XS got into the game way faster than the iPhone 7. Is it astonishing? Yes. That is one astonishing factor about that. I was not expecting Temple Run to be. Temple Run is not even that like high intensive of a game. Let's go ahead and do Real Racing 3. That's the most common game I have. Or we can do Nova 2. Nova 3, 2, 1. As you can see, it's blowing the competition right now. The iPhone 7 is still like very behind. I would say in terms of what got into the game first, the iPhone XS got into the game first. And I went through all the loading screens. Let's do Real Racing 3. 3, 2, 1. As you can see, this is like still way ahead. I don't know if that Game Center thing's going to come up. Okay, confirm. So this is already technically into the game. I think I'm on 2 different like levels on this. Technically now this is into the game. Once it gets into that little race car thing, then you're in. So this one actually got into the game faster than this one. So that's super interesting. Like it's crazy because these phones are only like 2 years apart and there's already this much of a difference. Now switching to the topic, I normally hate talking about this, but these phones are kind of different in terms of the camera sensor, so it's going to be a little bit more interesting. This camera has a dual camera setup. This camera has a single camera setup. So that in and of itself is a humongous reason kind of to upgrade in the camera department. They both technically do have the same megapixel count, so this one has 12 megapixels, these two have 12 megapixels, but this one, like I said, has 2 cameras. And what that second camera allows you to do is allows you to zoom in further into a video, photo, whatever, which is nice. And this is actually, they're both wide angle lens technically, but you have to remember that both these lenses have optical image stabilization, and that's a main difference between the iPhone 10 and the iPhone XS, and that was a really big upgrade in my opinion. That way, if you're zooming into a photo from afar, you can go and actually have stable footage in that secondary camera as well. So in terms of the photos and everything, you do have portrait mode, smart HDR, portrait lighting, all those different cool features that comes with sorry, I was pointing with my pinky. But with the dual cameras, you do have all those features. The single camera, you don't necessarily have those, but still, I don't think the iPhone 7's camera is horrible either. But the iPhone XS camera is better overall. In terms of video resolutions, the iPhone XS can shoot 4K up to 60 frames per second, or you can only shoot 4K at 30 frames per second on the iPhone 7. And you can do 1080p videos up to 240 frames per second on the iPhone XS, or you can only do 120 frames on 1080p. And that's kind of cool. I like that a lot. Is it a notable increase? Like, can you tell? Yes, you can. Like, it's definitely the colors look more vibrant. It might be because of the screen, but it definitely looks better. I would say that if you have an iPhone 7, I mean, I don't think you're too worried about camera quality, but if you're a photographer, if you take a lot of photos with your iPhone at all, or if you leave your camera behind and, bring your phone with you, if you want to bring your phone with you to places and just depend on that, then the iPhone XS is going to do you better in the long run than the iPhone 7. So the front cameras also got an increase on both phones, so now they can shoot 1080p at 60 frames per second on the iPhone XS, where you can only shoot 1080p at 30 frames per second on the iPhone 7. And this is really only good if you plan on doing like vlogs or something like that on your phone, because then, 60 frames per second is the new wave. It's going to take over. People are already doing it. I still shoot in 30 frames, but I'm going to switch to 60 frames in a little bit. So I would definitely say that the camera sensor on the iPhone XS, both front and back, are better than the iPhone 7. Now here's another topic that I love talking about, and that is actually the battery life. So a lot of people might expect the iPhone 7 to have better battery just because it is a little bit more underpowered, bigger screen, Super AMOLED screen, all this stuff. But in my opinion, and by the stats and the numbers, the iPhone XS is going to have better battery life than the iPhone 7. And that mostly has to do with because it is a bigger battery. You have a 2658 mAh battery on the iPhone XS and only a 1960 mAh battery on the iPhone 7. And there is a bit of difference there. I mean, you would think because the iPhone 7 is smaller, it's underpowered, it can technically do more with battery life that it has, but that's not really the case. I do find battery life being better on the iPhone XS as well, and this is why it's so crucial. I mean, you can add the new chip, you can do all this and that, but I definitely think that overall, having a bigger battery is only going to do you better. And the reason I'm saying that is because the jump from an iPhone 10 to a XS, the battery size actually decreased. I think there was a 2715 milliamp hour battery, so about like 100 milliamp hour difference, or a 50 milliamp hour difference, I don't remember. But that's really messed up. I really wish they just kept it the same battery size or even increased it. That would have been so much better, but what's Apple gonna do, you know? Now, some other notable things to note: the iPhone XS looks way better than the iPhone 7. You know, you have a home button here. You have a lot of bezel going around, and you know, whether that pertains to you, that's up to you, but I just like the way the iPhone XS looks. The iPhone 10, XS, XS Max, they all look really good. The screen, like I said, is Super AMOLED on this one. There's actually new dust and water resistance, so technically speaking, if you have the iPhone 7, you're IP67 dust and water resistant, but on the iPhone XS, you actually have IP68 dust and water resistant. So technically speaking, the iPhone XS will handle better in different weather conditions than the iPhone 7, but the iPhone 7 still has a little bit of the rating, so that's good. They both don't have headphone jacks. The speaker is louder on the iPhone XS by a little bit. And those are pretty much the main things you need to know. That is everything you need to know to compare these two. So in my opinion, if you have an iPhone 7 right now, should you go and upgrade to the iPhone XS? In my opinion, I will say no, don't upgrade to an iPhone XS. It's definitely better, but I think you should go and buy a used iPhone 10 because it is cheaper. This phone, the main problem is because it's too expensive. I just think it's too expensive for what it is. It's definitely 100% better. It's overall better than the iPhone 10, but I just don't think it's worth the money. I think it's just too expensive for what it is. The iPhone 10, however, is still a huge upgrade from an iPhone 7, and you're kind of future-proofing yourself too because that's a new design, and you can have a really good-looking phone and AMOLED screen without having to pay that premium of having the latest and greatest. So in that case, I would say buy a used iPhone 10. But like I said, if you have an unlimited amount of money, just go get the XS, I guess. But the iPhone 10 is still a very good deal. I think the 10 is $600, give or take, maybe like $700. So I would definitely say in that sense, if you need to upgrade, go get an iPhone 10, it'll do you better. But that is pretty much my opinion, you guys. If you have any questions or concerns or anything, leave it down in the comment section below. I'd love to hear your opinion. Hit that like button if you enjoyed the video, but definitely hit that subscribe button, guys. Every single subscriber really does count, so it means so much if you guys could hit that. Also, if you want to get an iPhone XS or an iPhone 7, I'll leave links in the description. I'll leave an iPhone 10 down there too. You guys can get it through that link and it'll help support the channel too. But definitely go check out the links down there. On my second channel, I would love you if you go subscribe to that. I need 1,000 subscribers on that channel, so go subscribe to that. I'm like 80 away, not even. So it definitely mean a lot if you guys could hit that. But more importantly than everything else, I love every single one of you guys, and I hope I'll catch you guys in the next video. Peace out to them.